Hey heroes, welcome in. We are your hosts for hire. I am Kyle Cage. This is Lucas Rand. Today we're going to be getting into Invincible. We haven't
Yeah.
done any episodes on this previously, but Lucas just actually watched season 2 for the first time. I realized I hadn't seen half of season 2, but we wanted to get into it now that season 3 is halfway done. Just talk a little bit about it. Let's see what you guys think about it. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and head over to Hosts4Hire podcast on all socials, especially YouTube. Trying to get to that 10K.
Please, please,
Please
please.
help us get there. So we're not necessarily planning on talking about anything specific. Spoiler warning, but we sometimes go off on tangents and some spoilery
Yeah.
things might come up, so be warned.
Yeah. Be warned. I don't know how much we're gonna get into season 3, but like I just did like Kyle read the comics and like loves the show. I didn't really get into the show until like literally just actually now. Um, I saw actually a video on TikTok and it was somebody comparing it to Arcane, and I love
Mhm.
Arcane like so much. I was like, whoa, like if we're throwing like those things around, I gotta
We got to
watch
give it a
this thing.
chance.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
gotta watch this thing. So I binged the heck out of it, and man, I like it. It's super good. I have my like like little issues here and there with it. There's a lot of lovey-dovey parts that like just like me as Lucas doesn't necessarily enjoy, but I understand that they're necessary.
Mhm.
Um, Mostly, I like the different dichotomy of a Superman trope that we get to see, right? Because like Superman's always like the coolest, but also one of the lamest characters, because like
And
his
his like he's been done a million different times with
right,
Homelander, with the even the Omni Man. Like there's just
yeah,
a lot of different Superman
Superman tropes. Like
tropes. Yeah.
this. The show's weird. They do like the whole like tropey thing really well. Like their characters feel all very original, whilst also like I know that they're all based on like other characters' powers and like other characters like things that aren't necessarily original, but all their characters feel very original. And that's
Hmm.
like pretty impressive because like obviously it's like a spoof, like they're doing like almost like a spoof of the Justice League, right? Like a spoof of a lot of characters like Web Weaver, like
Darkwing.
Darkwing, uh good example. But then there's like some other ones that aren't so like on the nose, where it's like Adam Eve, where like her powers are like incredible. She can do like so much. But like on the battlefield, she essentially acts as a Green Lantern, right?
Hmm.
She like shields the team, provides structures, like that's her like purpose on the battlefield. Um so I find all those things extremely interesting. Like what's the alien dude with the Alan? Alan
Yeah.
love
Alan
that
the
character,
Alien,
dude.
Seth
Oh my
Rogen.
god. Dude, that's so good. Okay, the voice acting in this dude, Seth Rogen, they got Optimus Prime.
They got J. Jonah
Tell me
Jameson.
why. Yeah, what the fuck? Like, J. Jonah Jameson, I understand because you can't have a mustache without having uh, the
J.
that
Jonah.
it's who you are, baby. That guy's been typecast into the mustache guy, dude, and I
Even in
respect it,
animation.
and I respect it. Uh,
But
but
to your
Optimus
point, the
Prime,
the the voice acting cast in this is incredible. Zachary Quinto as the robot, like,
Stephen Yoon as Invincible, just like
yep.
just like crazy good.
Jason Mantzoukas, Jay from Big Mouth,
Love
like
that, dude.
Rafi. He's always
I love,
Rafi
yeah,
first,
dude.
you know.
I love that actor, dude. I love him in everything he does. I love that he just comes through and plays himself, and it's always just fantastic. I
Yep.
do like Rex's growth during this though. But yeah, that like I was saying, I really enjoy the difference in that trope because like what it always, I guess I like the idea of that the Earth would have lost and like Earth would be enslaved to the
Viltrumites.
to the Viltrumites if only Omni Man just didn't feel guilty about killing Mark. Like
Hmm.
that's really the only thing that separates. That's why like that Sissel. By the way, I love Sissel. I don't know how to feel
Cecil,
about him
yeah.
actually. I really don't know how to feel about because he's such a piece of shit, right? Like he's just like we know he's a bastard. Like
Just
that
like
he's like
just like I kin him to like a cross between Amanda Waller and Nick Fury.
yeah, yeah, dude. We're like you're such a bastard. But like he does have like the good of Earth at least
For
like
the
in mind.
most part, he's right. Like
That
in most
spoiler warning, that
situations.
new episode where you kind of get to see in season 3 his like reasoning, that like full circleness of like how he used to be the idealistic kid like Mark, and how he had to like kind of how he has gone through what Mark is currently going through, where
Yep,
he's kind of having to learn. Which, by the way,
that
I'm
writing.
going off on I'm going off on tangents here, but Mark is so wrong.
It's so
What's
wrong.
going on, dude?
Like
He's
so
so
objectively wrong.
objectively wrong. Like what the fuck?
And it's almost painful to watch because like it's
As the
necessary for his
audience,
growth as
yeah,
yeah, like but like even as like a fan or like as the audience, we know that like okay, this is going to be necessary for his growth as a person and superhero.
right.
But man, you are
God,
so
it's so
naive.
annoying, dude. I wish that there was like Omni Man there to just punch him in the face.
Yeah. Which
Because
speaking of which, the first season and like jumping back, like that fight might be one of the coolest
oh yeah,
animated sequences of Omni-Man just beating the ever
beautiful.
living shit out of him.
It's weird to call this beautiful animation because it's so gory, but it really
Mhm,
is really well animated and really beautifully animated. You know
mhm.
me. The big reason I don't like The Boys is like I really don't like it when the superhero world gets taken into a base of reality where it becomes like horror or
Well,
like
it's
gory
gratuitously
or
violent. Yeah.
gratuitously violent, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I don't feel that from this necessarily. Where like I do
No.
feel sometimes where I'm like, oh, geez, like that didn't need to fucking happen. But it's
Yeah.
always cool.
Yeah,
I,
and
I
and
I think
sometimes like a
animation
lot of
really
times
gives like a nice little like sprinkle on that for me personally.
yeah, and there's usually like a comment about it. Like when Rex blows someone up, he's like, "Oh, that's disgusting." Or like when
Yeah,
Alan
right,
like
right, right, right.
beats someone to shit, he's like, "Oh my god." Oh.
When Alan takes that hit, and
He's like, "That
oh,
hurt a lot less than it did last time."
he's like, oh hell yeah. Also, by the way, he's another one of those characters that feels so original, but he's like Doomsday, right?
Essentially, yeah.
He
Well, like
dies,
kind
he
of
comes back
where
stronger.
like it's
He
not
dies,
his
he comes
power
back
to it's not
stronger.
like his power like Doomsday, but
Right, right.
because he gets put back together and like
You
now
know?
he's a special Unopin, like
Yeah, right, right.
but you're
Um,
essentially right. The concept of this character coming back stronger every time he dies is essentially Doomsday, just a
I
different way
really
that it
like how they
happens.
took these like concepts because there's like the idea of there's no original thoughts, right? Like we're all just taking
Mhm,
thoughts from other people's thoughts and like making our own thoughts out of them. Uh, that's like a beautiful example of that, in my opinion. Like,
mhm.
because he feels so extremely original, but it comes from like all these like different like different
Places,
comic book
yeah,
ideas
sources,
that like
yeah, different
right,
source ideas, yeah,
yeah, it's pretty cool.
yeah.
I'm
One
very
of my
excited
favorite
to
things
see where
is
him and Nolan are going because like I didn't read the comics and like so I
mhm.
don't have like any idea of what's gonna happen going forward.
Yeah, which is
Uh,
exciting for you. Well, like
yeah,
okay, they do follow the comics pretty closely so far. Like as far as I remember, they've been following. There's a few things that they changed radically, like Amber. The entire character of
right,
Amber has more substance, because like in the comics she was a non-substantive like throwaway character, so they
right, right,
actually
right.
gave her depth, and that was like a good addition. And like everything else for the most part has been pretty just like comic accurate. They're
Yeah,
doing their very best to follow the storylines the way that they work because the reality is I think there was only like 140 something issues
right,
of the whole comic line, so like the story isn't super expansive. I can't imagine they can do more than a fourth season.
right.
Like we'll probably get the fourth season will probably be the last, maybe five if they stretch
Yeah, I mean
it,
that's
but
good though. Like sometimes you gotta let
it
good
doesn't
things
need
end.
to. Yeah, it doesn't need to go on
Like
forever.
sometimes you gotta let good things end.
Yeah.
Um,
One of my other favorite things about like the theming and the things like going along with like it being almost like a spoof where like it's very meta, it's very aware of itself.
right.
In season 2 there's an episode where they go to the comic book convention
Dude,
and
yes, I know exactly what
he
you're
talks
talking
to
about.
the creator of Seance Dog and asks him about the show, and he's like, well, animation takes a long time, and then proceeds to break down every single trick and tip that animators use to animate shows, and now I cannot stop seeing. Like he goes through explaining how they don't show mouths sometimes so that they don't have to animate the mouths, and like they'll have like still shots that the camera moves so it looks
Right,
like
right, right,
everything's
right.
moving, but it's just a still image, and
Dude, that
like
shit
things
is
like that.
funny, man.
So like later on, like in a couple episodes later, Eve is going to a random college class, right? Completely innocuous scene. My brain noticed immediately that her and the people she interacts with are the only characters that aren't static.
Static. Yeah.
Like there's her and one other character and the professor. Everyone else is a static image. Like there's a person
That's
with a
good stuff.
pencil. There's a dude with his hands like this, and they don't move at all throughout the entire scene.
You're like, I'm cursed. I'm seeing it everywhere now.
Yeah. So A, screw you, and B, thank you, because that was really awesome. I don't know. I
Yeah,
really
Mark is
like
like,
that.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, it's so meta, and I love it. I don't know. I'm a nerd for shit like that.
Yeah, that was really cool. I really like that.
Yeah, but also it's
Um,
like it's a great way to say like yeah, like the animation is hard and it takes time to do it well. We should expect every 2 years to get one season of a well-made
yeah,
show at least,
for
and
sure.
3 to 5 years for, like, for instance, people
Movie.
complaining about the Spider-Verse movies taking 10
Take
years
as
to
long as
make
you
three.
want,
I
babies.
don't care. Yeah, like take 5 years a movie because they're gorgeous. They're
Yeah.
beautiful, and I know it takes a long time.
I will say this. So like I kept seeing things comparing Invincible to like the best animated anything. Which I gotta say, I really enjoy it. And I don't know, like I don't know though, man. Like
Writing wise,
there was
I
one
would agree with that.
specifically that I was seeing that they were like, they were talking about. What got me into it was that it was like on par with Arcane. I haven't seen anything that puts me there yet.
No, I personally think writing wise, it is the way that everything is, circles back to
Yeah,
itself, like the allegories with the young kids not understanding certain things and the older people having kind of lost their idealism. There's a lot of really, really good
yeah.
writing in it, but as far as the sheer animation goes, like there was the
I don't know if I
style.
can put it on as like good as like Spider Verse or Arcane or
Yeah, no, like stylistically, it's also so very different. It feels
yeah,
more like a classic comic book cartoon
yeah.
rather than,
There's nothing
something
really
that's
wrong with it
super high
in
class,
in any point. I just like I also
Really.
don't like think like I guess a good example for me is like I haven't necessarily been like moved
Hmm.
to like like as much as like Arcane or Spider Verse or like those like the depth of story that like
Hmm.
those like that. This has just felt very fun and cartoony.
Hmm.
Just kind of like an old school cartoon. Um,
But I agree that
yeah,
people saying the animation specifically, like for instance, my favorite parts of the animation have been exclusively like specific, very small details within the fight scenes, especially
yeah.
when Viltrumites are fighting. Like,
That I do think is
like
dope as fuck, dude. Their
I
combat scenes is dope,
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah,
cool.
super sick. That's like where the peak of the animation in this show is for me, is not like the subtle
Well,
things that
yeah,
you
and I
see
don't
in the
necessarily
like
think they
like
were
like let me
talking
put it
about
this
like
way, like
animation specifically, but just like animated things.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
okay, that
Like
makes sense then.
comparing
Yeah.
animation. You know,
Yeah. Which,
um,
like, I don't know. I think the depth of story is pretty close. I don't think it's quite there. It's hard though because there's such a connection specifically to Arcane and League of Legends. You know
yeah,
what I mean? There's like an
yeah,
importance there to our lives that makes it hard to separate
yeah. Well, I
those
think also
things.
like in those things, like with Arcane specifically, is they created stories for characters that already existed that were so like impactful and so like somehow so deep within the small amount of time that we got to spend with them.
Hmm.
Whereas, like I said, this one just feels more like a fun cartoon.
Hmm.
It doesn't necessarily like It doesn't
Yeah,
feel like the weight of the actions matter quite as much.
yeah,
You
specifically
you know what I
seasons
mean?
1 and 2. Season 3 so far, it feels like those consequences are gonna start catching up.
Yeah.
Like with the end of season 2 being the mistakes he made at the end of season 1 with Angstrom Levy coming back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah,
That kind
that
of feels like the
was one of my
start.
negatives actually with
But what I was gonna is that feels like the start of the consequences arc almost.
yeah.
Like the arc where Mark learns that the actions have consequences and that you need to deal with them, and that no matter what you do, they're going, like, no matter what path you choose, there's gonna be consequences, unforeseen consequences
Right, right, right.
that you don't know about.
Yeah.
But I agree that I wish they would have used him more than just as a plot device, Angstrom Levy.
Yeah, I didn't really I thought that like all wrapped up too quick. Like they like really
Yeah.
set that up in a cool way. And
Granted, it kind of felt that way. I feel like more so because me and you specifically watched season 1 so long ago, and he was like the main villain of season 1.
but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like they built him up really stretch and then when it culminates, Mark ends that within half the episode.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. Yeah.
it's only a half an
That's what
episode
I mean. Like
finale
they just used
about
him.
something that they stretched out for 2 seasons.
Yeah, and they
It's kind of
used
the
him
exact
as
point
a
I'm trying to
plot
make.
point. Yeah, they used him
Yeah.
as a plot point that I think it should have been
Which
utilized
was like
better.
cool, that like Mark thought he was stronger, so he like went too hard and like he
Hmm.
killed him. Like that's cool. But like that could have happened at the end of the episode rather
Hmm.
than halfway through the episode.
Hmm.
You know what I
And
mean?
then the
Like
rest of the
they could have
episode
still
being
used
him
the
being,
same plot point,
yeah,
like it could have just been more of a threat that Angstrom was posing. Because
yeah,
he just I guess to me like their fight was really him sending Mark to other places and then they fight for like 30 seconds
yeah. Because the reality is
and
he
then it's
couldn't
over.
actually physically fight him.
You know?
Like that was the only
Yeah.
thing that he could really do. He thought he might be able to,
Yeah.
but he didn't realize how
So I guess
strong
like to me
Mark
that was just
is.
pretty anticlimactic.
Yeah,
Like as far as like a finale, the Viltrumite fight scenes were way more exciting.
absolutely.
Way more exciting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like save
With
like to me as like the like audience like save that for the finale. Like your
mhm.
finale felt flat because that was so much better.
Well, they
You
seem
know?
like it seemed like what they wanted to try and do was make the finale not an action finale, but have it be more of an emotional impact finale, which it fell short on, if
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. I didn't really
Like I
get that
just
either.
like because what it was is like the impact was Mark killed someone for the first time ever.
Right.
He's never killed someone. It was his line that he wasn't ever gonna cross, and he crossed it. And like him dealing with the aftermath of that, and like the emotional aftermath of that
I guess, but like
was
to me,
supposed
I
to be
guess
like,
when he fights with Omni Man on the other planet on Thraxa, he
mhm,
kills. He kills that lady. Like at least he tries to, and then Nolan
yeah,
ultimately finishes her off. But like his intention, like when Nolan's like, "Hey, you have to stop holding back,
yeah,
or we're both dead." He stops holding back,
yeah,
and like he was about to kill her.
yeah,
If she hadn't fucking gotten him in the fucking stomach like a fucking sneaky bitch, like he was about to. So
yeah,
like it just kind of felt flat to me because like I was like, man, you already made the choice.
hmm,
Like you kind of already got there.
yeah. And well, and
You
like
know?
more to the point, you're already drawing lines, like because she's a Viltrumite and she like you can't hold back against her. Like like you have a higher chance of killing her. Like it's either kill or be killed. But like you're already drawing that line there. Now the line has already become arbitrary.
Yeah.
Which is what they lead into a season 3 with Cecil being like so fucking terrified of him because he's already drawn an arbitrary line that
Well, you and I were
is
talking
based on
like
his own morality.
he's already crossed the line with Cecil that Nolan never did,
Yeah, well,
and
and like
and
granted, there
Nolan
was like
flipped on the planet like that. You
well,
know what I
like
mean? So
it
like
was more like he was like a an agent, a spy implanted. He was meant to get their
right,
trust
but
and
that's what I
like
mean. In Cecil's mind, you have to think he was like, I
mhm,
trusted a man wholly. One day he just flipped on me, bam, enslaved the whole planet, killed everyone, killed all the heroes. Like
mhm,
you have already crossed the line that he never did, and he was lying to me, and like ended up doing all this shit. So
yeah,
like, what am I to expect out of you that you've
Like,
already
can you,
crossed this
like, just
line?
think about the reality of how
Yeah,
terrifying a being like Omni-Man existing would
right.
be for an average person, let alone like a
Or for like
government
governments,
a
you know,
government
like
official that's in charge of the global defense agency. You know what I
you
mean?
know,
Like, it's his job to protect the planet and its inhabitants. If
yeah.
like the greatest threat is its greatest superhero,
That's why we were
that's a
talking there. Like
problem.
Invincible is so objectively wrong.
Hmm.
Like with this shit. And that, what actually bothers me is the rest of the Guardians. Like when they split, I didn't really like that. That seems kind of like a forced civil war. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like they're doing the civil war bit.
yeah.
You know,
I didn't
and
even think about that
I don't really
actually,
like
but
that. You know,
yeah.
because like it just feels extremely forced. Because logically, none of them would be on his side, bro. Like one, none of them have them been that close of friends for that long at all.
Hmm.
Secondly, like they just watched exactly why Cecil said when he grabs Cecil and pins him to the wall and just slaughters all those fucking Animen. Like
Yeah.
they're all looking
Yeah, like holy shit,
like
that was
oh my god,
intense.
like that was excessive.
Hmm.
You know, like
Like, I don't know.
is what it feels like.
What's
And
interesting
then they
is
split anyway, and I'm like, bruh. Especially the
well,
robot man. I know that he
to
went
see. Okay, no,
because he wants some pussy, but like
no, that's the
logically,
only one. Rudy leaving is the only one that really gets me because I get that like
the man is
what they
chasing
were
the
going
tail,
for. Well,
baby.
I get what they're
We've
going
all
for with like
Rudy.
the
We've all been
Guardian,
there, brother.
the Guardian. I feel for my man's,
I feel
but
you.
like,
I feel you, Rudy.
like, I get what they're going with. Like the more experienced Guardians who understand a little bit more about how the world works are on Cecil's side, and the younger, more idealistic ones who haven't learned what need that sometimes you need to do things
Yeah,
you don't
and
want to
I,
do.
I
I
liked
get
that too,
that,
but like they
but
all were afraid in that moment, so like they all should have understood. Like
yeah,
every one of them, they showed in their faces. They made a point to put the camera on like their faces, and
yeah,
they're all afraid of Mark.
but it could
You know?
that just made me think. It could also be that some of them are just on his side because they're afraid because they know that if it ever comes down to it, he would win.
That is what the other
Like shrinking
what
Ray
Rudy
almost. It looked like Ray like was
well Rudy
like
does say that to Black Samson when when
yeah.
he's like, oh, like I know you're going after the girl, because he's like logically like you know that doesn't make sense. And then he's like, yeah, but like if it all shakes down, I kind of want to be on his side.
The winning side.
Like
The statistically winning
you know.
side, yeah.
So I guess I get it, but
Yeah. No,
yeah, I didn't like that too
that's
much.
I also that was like especially Robot Rudy going is like,
Dude,
God damn it. That is
Sissel
the
gets
logic.
there after spoiler warning. Uh after Mark Oliver like kills the Maulers, and he's like, "Oh, like everything's gonna be okay." Mark just gets there and fucking is about to kill him. Like, brother,
Dude,
that's what we're talking about. Like, this is what in 20 years becomes a, or in 100 years, imagine, when all the people you love are fucking dead, becomes a fucking tyrant and ruler of the world, bro.
yep.
Like, you're literally on the path right now. Like, you're walking the path to be a tyrant ruler of Earth in 100 years.
Yep. Oh man. Oh. So what's funny is I am one episode ahead of Lucas, and there's the episode he hasn't watched touches on exactly what he just said.
Like, god damn it, it's crazy. That's great, because that's what it is. And
Yeah. Well,
it's funny
it's
because
not
me
him.
as a
But yeah.
fan, this is really interesting, because like normally what I watch is Marvel and DC, and
Hmm.
also like normally when I'm watching like cartoons or things that are coming out, I have a pretty general knowledge of what's happening,
Or what's
like
going to happen, or
or
what
what's
could
going to
happen.
happen, or exactly right. Like here, it's kind of like a total blank slate, which is kind of really exciting. I don't know why I
Yeah.
haven't like tapped into this
Yeah, I've
before.
been trying to get you to watch it. Like
I
like
know
I
you
said, we
have, and
watched
I've been
season
like
one
reluctant
together,
to it
but
because I have a hard time with that shit.
yeah.
Uh,
Well,
and then I just
so
like
it's hard to
binged
get
it for like 12 hours yesterday.
finally got into it. And yeah, it's good. I mean, there's a lot of really depth. There's a lot of good depth in the story. There's a lot of good animation and
As far as
scenes
like
and
original
writing.
content that's like come out that isn't like DC or Marvel, like I'd definitely put it up. I guess this is really unfair because like Spawn hasn't had like something that has come out other than the
Since the
old cartoon,
90s.
like which was like my that
Oh,
old Spawn cartoon, bruh.
That was like
Dude,
that
that
was
was
it,
my
dude.
shit.
I think it's on HBO now,
It's
or it's on
so good,
Max.
dude. It
Yeah,
is on Max.
yeah.
Yes,
It's
it
yeah.
is.
I'm wanting to binge it.
It's so good, dude.
Yeah.
But it
Well,
gives me like those vibes. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Where like I think I'd compare. I haven't seen the boys. You know, I don't
Hmm.
really fucks with the boys very, very hard.
Yeah.
But I would compare it to like Spawn and Invincible.
Is up
Pretty
there.
close.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
It's pretty good. There one more thing I was wondering about, who's your favorite character overall?
It's hard.
I know.
Let me think for a second. I really like Darkwing's power concept. I came up with a very similar character power concept in some stupid story I was writing for DC. So I'm hurt about it, and yet I love it.
Yeah.
Um, Alan, I think, is my favorite character so far.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I really love that they got, because like
Uh,
in the comics, Alan is very much the character we're seeing, and Seth Rogen is like an unexpectedly great
Fantastic,
voice
good voice
actor.
actor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like why does that work so well?
yeah. It's super good, dude. And like, I just really like his concept.
Hmm.
Like, just like the like death and rebuild. Does it happen more in the comics even,
No, no, it's pretty
or
much
is he
the
kind
same
of
thing
peaked
where
out
like
right here?
yeah, like he gets the shit beat out of him, he gets rebuilt, he gets the shit beat out of him, and he gets rebuilt. And I think that's kind of it, as far as I
Okay,
remember. Like, but because of that second one, he also like is,
because
almost at
at
the
least in the
levels of
show here, it
Viltrumite.
didn't necessarily seem like he was being rebuilt. Because like that was the chamber he was in was kind of like a, what do you call it? Like a life support,
Regeneration
right?
chamber, yeah, like yeah, the
Uh,
life support.
and when he turns it off, he kind of says like, he like Optimus Prime says that like that like the evolution is his superpower, and like he'll either make it or he won't,
Yeah. It's
type
kind of
shit.
you're yeah,
You know?
exactly. Where like it kind of is like Unopens, basically if Unopens survive an experience, they come out able to survive that previous
Right. And
experience.
is it
Kind of like
Unopens in
Doomsday.
general, or is it Alan because he was that test tube baby that the
It,
Unopens
it
were like making
it's
as a
Alan, sorry,
response to,
Alan in general. Yeah. Alan is kind of the one with that. He's the
because he's
special
like the like super
Unopen.
baby,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
dude, that shit was great. That like Alan the alien episode, that was funny as hell, dude.
I really like that
What
they're doing
fucking
things like
Mark
that.
and fucking Amber are having sex. They're like, let's give him some privacy. And then they're having sex. He's like, "Ah."
Uh, yeah, I really love Alan. That's a great choice. I'm gonna have
You
to.
guys, tell us in the comments who your favorite characters are. We know we've gone along. We hope this has been entertaining. Tell us what your opinions on Invincible are. How have you been liking the show so far? Have you been into season 3?
Yeah,
What do you think is
I
going
think
on?
season 3 is the peak so far,
I
like
guess
of
here's
the
something we can
show.
do, Kyle. Where do you? Shit, you know where it's going. So I
I
guess this is
kind
a
of know
better
where it's
question
going. Yeah,
for me. Where do I think it's going? Um, God, dude, I was hoping that you were gonna say something, and I could piggyback off of what you were gonna say. Uh,
that's the thing, is I know where it's going. So because of the fact that, okay, I'm almost positive I know where it's going, because of the fact that so far they've followed the stories of the comics for the most part.
right, and so I guess to me, the person who doesn't know, Nolan and Alan, right, are gonna escape.
Hmm.
That's my thought, and they're gonna come to Earth. Oh shit, it's very interesting because like
Well,
if they
they
if
already said why
co-
Alan is breaking, who
right,
like who's
if they
he's
come to
breaking up
Earth to
for.
take Mark, so that they can go fight the like Viltrumite war, that kind of solves Sissel's problem, doesn't it? Because then
Kind
like
yes,
Mark's
yes and
gone.
no. Mark's gone, but now Earth has lost its strongest defender.
Right, right.
So there's the other problem of the Viltrumite that's coming after the woman, because Mark's not
Coming to Earth.
taking up his post. Who's
Oh.
even
So Mark is
stronger?
gonna leave, and then their Viltrumite's gonna come
Either
to
that
Earth.
or um they'll all arrive at the same time, or um, yeah, or Mark won't be there, or the other thing is that Thaddeus is probably going to want to talk to Nolan immediately, before going to Earth. Like they might just go straight to the Coalition. There's a lot of that's what I'm saying. Season 3, it feels like there's gonna be this is like.
Took me a second there, but once I thought about it, I was like, all right, so Mark is gonna be taken to go fight the fucking shit.
And no one's they're gonna be there.
That would be cool. I hope that's what they do, because then it really show it'll give the Guardians an opportunity to really show what they can do or
can't do, yeah, or how much they need Mark or a Viltrumite of some kind around, But I don't know. I'm interested.
But then, what the story has to be is Earth surrendering to Viltrum.
See, yeah,
because if the Earth can't survive without Mark or Nolan around, that means that they need Viltrumite rule. Like what that Andessa was saying is right. That she's like, hey, if we rule, there's no tornadoes, there's no
That's
crime.
One of my
there's
favorite things about this is that everyone is both right and wrong in some ways. That's one of my favorite things about this overall storyline is the fact that it's really hard. They make it seem like there's such clear-cut good guys and bad guys. Like the Viltrumites are bad guys, but if you really break it down, you really need to watch episode 4. So, there's
I get it because in a sense,
no, there's just one specific thing about the Viltrumites that make them they're a race trying to survive.
Interesting.
They've conquered thousands of planets, right? But even though they have the most vast empire that's ever existed in the history of the universe, full-blooded Viltrumites are very few and far between.
Right.
And so they what they're doing, they're also doing for a reason. So
that's why they really can't kill Nolan. And they're kind of keeping him alive.
Why they push it so? Why it's so hard? You have to do.
Well, I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was just a torture tactic where the dude is where Nolan is okay again to be executed. He's back to full force, and then the dude just beats him down again and is oh. It says here in the rule book that Viltrumite needs to be at full force to be executed, so I guess we'll wait.
And it's because he's only the second Viltrumite to ever rebel. So they really,
and he didn't even really technically rebel.
No, not like Thaddeus did.
He just
Thaddeus grew a beard.
My boy
Thaddeus grew a goddamn beard. All right,
dude, that's he's dude, ain't no way. Dude, to me, it doesn't matter how strong you are of a being, dude. Viltrumite, Kryptonian, it don't matter who you are, dude. You cannot rip the facial hair off your body without shedding a tear, bro.
And you saw that it wasn't glue, follicles flutter off as he rips it off.
Well, my thing is what's going on with the mustache then? Is it mightier? Is it just mightier follicles?
Is he able to precisely?
Yeah, was it what was it precision that we witnessed?
Also, I don't know about your beard hairs, but my beard hair's way up here. Don't go cut down here. If I grab my beard and pull, the hairs up here aren't coming off.
Pull one hair out of my beard right now, I'd be shedding it too. I'd be crying right now. Dude, that shit was so funny. Optimus Prime.
Also, yeah, I can't believe that I never put it together that those Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime. It's so obviously him. Boy. I was watching the recap at the beginning of season 3, and immediately they're talking bring me the boy, and it's Optimus Prime.
Autobots, Viltrumites, roll out.
Coalition, roll out.
Roll out. Transform.
Yeah, super good. Oh my god!
I was just waiting for a monologue like we got at the end of Transformers, like when you look out at the stars, do not forget. We are looking down on you.
is I've been watching falling asleep to Heroes, the first season of Heroes the last week, and they do that like in almost every episode. There's just
Optimus
random
Prime monologue.
like Optimus Prime monologues. It's just Mohinder just going on random monologues to no one. Like, who are you talking to?
Gotta ask Optimus, who's he talking to? He's sometimes I'm just talking. I got shit to say.
Talking to myself. That's because I got shit to say.
All right,
Oh
you
my
guys,
god.
it's gone long, and we appreciate it if you have made it this far. But
I'll be flabbergasted if you have.
and we love you if you did.
Yeah.
As always, please like, share, subscribe at Hosts4Hire podcast. That's Hosts4Hire with the number 4. We want ideas in the comments. We want you to tell us what you want to see episodes about. We want you to tell us what we're talking about wrong. We want you to tell us that our opinions suck. We want you to tell us that we're correct and that our opinions are awesome. So please just tell us
every bit.
stuff in the comments. We need it. We want it. And we will see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks.